So to start off, I thought I'd just tell you guys what my general approach to 4-betting is and what my range is. And it's a very tight range for the most part. If I'm playing someone who I don't really know much about and I don't have any reason to suspect that they're 3-betting widely or 4-betting widely, or sorry, 3-betting widely or willing to 5-bet shove widely or anything like that, then my 3-betting or my 4-betting range, and I apologize if I make mistakes throughout the video. We're talking about 4-bets and 3-bets and 5-bets and whatnot. But my 4-betting range is usually going to be 10s plus and then ace-king plus. I know it's a very tight range and that most people are very happy 4-bet calling 8s, ace-queen and stuff like that. But for me, I usually start it off pretty tight and I'm certainly willing to expand it depending on the situation. And I'll talk about some spots that I think it's worth expanding your 4-betting range, no matter what it is. There are some spots that it'll make sense to be 4-betting very thinly for value, and vice versa. There will be spots where it makes sense to not be 4-betting thinly for value, but rather be 4-bet bluffing quite a bit. Okay, so moving on. I think that in general, your pre-flop strategy with regards to 4-betting, 3-betting, and even 5-betting should be a conscious decision, obviously, and you should be very conscious of the fact that it's a very powerful way to basically manipulate the variance in a match. How often you're 4-betting and 3-betting really will set the tone for the rest of the match, and you can decide to play really tight in these areas and have a relatively low variance match, although it's still going to be heads up and there will be some variance, obviously, but less variance than if you were just going to war pre-flop. And conversely, you can go to war pre-flop and introduce a lot of variance into the match. So I think you should try and make a decision on how much variance you want in the match, and that this can be a really powerful weapon if you know how your opponent and how you yourself are going to react to a swingy match. So for instance, if you suspect that your opponent's a tilter who's liable to start playing a lot worse if he loses a few big pots, then I think it's a great opportunity to really try and go to war pre-flop and 3-bet them a lot and 4-bet them a lot, 4-bet bluff them, 4-bet lightly, etc., and just look to play a lot of big pots against them and expect that if they lose a couple of those pots, they're going to start tilting and playing worse. The flip side is if you think you're going to start playing worse if you lose a couple big pots, then it would make sense to not try and go to war pre-flop. And very few people are going to be willing to admit that they're not great at dealing with tilt and that they start playing worse when they lose big pots. But if you can be honest with yourself and admit that you do have some tilt problems, then I think it would probably help just to try and adopt a slightly less high variance style. And your 4-betting strategy is a great way to do that. Another point is that if you have the momentum in a match, I think it can be a very good idea to try and slow down the 4-betting preflop and other areas of your game just to not give your opponent any opportunity to regain momentum. And I think this has been touched on a number of videos, but basically just try and slow the match down and not let your opponent, win a big pot and stop tilting or start playing better. And yeah, I guess that's it. So just to reiterate, if you think that your opponent's a tilter, then I think you should oftentimes have a high variance 4-betting strategy, 4-bet bluff them a lot and 4-bet them for value a lot early on especially.